Welcome to No Less Survival. That's where the more you know, the less you need. So let's talk about perimeter security, operational security, and communications. What that means to me is the ability to control a space, be aware of what's going on in that space, and be alerted to anything infiltrating that space, and also be able to communicate with one another, whether it's your family unit or your security unit in an SHTF scenario. I'm going to get into a prototype of something that I feel as though, and I'm sure there'll always be room for improvement, that I perfected in the unit that's currently being in use. I want to apologize. Some of the terms I'm going to use are going to be vague, um, but it's important to me that I don't broadcast every single thing that I have to the outside world. But it's important enough to me that other people at least have some similar ideas so that maybe they can be more ready, because that's the whole point of why I started this channel. So I'm going to pan over to this in 1 second. All right, this is dubbed Hub V1. This is the first of 3 versions of a system that I built that can run off of solar power and battery backup and gives you encrypted communications to a point and surveillance, motion detection, and perimeter security. Hub 1 at max, when I had all devices plugged in, pulled 20 watts to 25 watts at night. So 0.048 or 0.48 kilowatt hours was more than able to run on just a 100-watt solar panel. And let me not get off on a tangent. Let's talk about what's in the box. Solar PoE switch. The reason why I went with this one is because it's not fussy about the input. As long as it's getting 12-ish volts, it can do the rest of the work and negotiate clean power to protected or sensitive electronics. You don't need this, but this is the way to do it where it's ultra portable and it requires the least amount of power. And power will come at a premium in SHTF, and this is what at least this first version was kind of built towards, and the third version ended up perfecting. So this is a Raspberry Pi. It's a single board computer. This one comes with a fancy case that had its own fan, blah, 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 bullshit, but I use it because it's there and makes it look cool because it matches the box. This is responsible for running your video monitoring software, your AI detection software. It can also stage as a hub for, depending on the what you use for communication. Super great. Runs off PoE, or can negotiate on the LAN for, not for PoE, but for that data. And I have that occupying my passive PoE port because I only have 12 volts running through this, so nothing bad's going to happen. This isn't in the box, it feeds out of the box. In fact, usually it gets mounted outside somewhere. But this is the Wavelink AC 1200. It's essentially a unit where you can put longer antennas on, you can disable LEDs too, it's waterproof, and it allows you to run an AT. So you can run it as its own wireless network, but still integrate it locally. And that way you're completely off the internet, but you can still reach out and broadcast to devices that you need to. And with the right software on your brains of your operation, you can make it so that other people won't even be able to see that there is a wireless network to attach to without having attempted it, dropped in, then assigned a static IP, and then been given permission to join the network. Otherwise, you see it once, you try to click on it, you try to enter a password, you try to keylog it, and it disappears. Downside to that is once a device tries, if you mess up on the operator side and uh, didn't hit save or something like that, then that specific device, short of like a full reboot, can't ever see the network again. Ask me how I know. Not everything is perfect. Brains of the operation needs data to store it on. I have a 2 terabyte SSD in Hub 1. Hub 2 has a 5, Hub 3 has a 5, but Hub 3 runs off of 24 volts direct because that is my big boy unit, and that's the unit that I run for my security and safety, which I'm not going to get into that unit. I just want to show you guys this to brainstorm and let you know that it's possible for anyone to build one of these and then have more safety and security and not have to be reactionary, but to be proactive with their security and SHDF. Backup USB-A port. Everything is fused. and then every negative runs to a bus block just to keep wiring neat in here so nothing gets jumbled. And then you have a 5 volt, 3 amp adapter, which feeds my Raspberry Pi and USB-C, and then again another 5 volt 3 feeds the A. Everything should be, like this guy, should be clean, because clean is good. Now, why do I have this fan blowing in, and why do I have a lawnmower filter on top of it? Well, electronics hate heat and they hate dust. This allows for positive air pressure in the box. With positive air pressure, I get an advantage because now, as long as I have a weather-rated exhaust like that, which also services where my wires dump out of, I can push hot air out forcefully and then also have a terminal that's below weather-rated areas. If you notice from the inside and from the outside, all of my connectors, which are holding what I mount to, are all sealed. And the reason why that is because this is meant to sit in outside elements and still have a degree of protection from those elements and be able to run essentially weatherproof, cold weatherproof. Hub 3 has RV heat tape, so that way it can run in winter or half buried and still maintain flow. And it has a more adequate and weather rated omnidirectional filter that allows it to pull in. The filters are replaceable, and they also have a noise dampener on them so that even the fan noise doesn't escape the box. So that's what's in the thing. So now why don't we hop out here and we'll talk about what you can run on this. You can run commercial grade cameras as long as they take 12 volts DC when it comes to this, or whatever the voltage is that you're using. One thing I like about the mile sites is that you can integrate them pretty quickly into alarm panels if you already have that infrastructure. You can also integrate them into other things. I have one running off a thermal imager, so that way it can detect, the thermal imager can detect and record thermal data, and there's heat mapping on Kerberos, which you can use. It's a software that you can use to kind of monitor video and heat map things. What this allows you to do is be able to have not night vision or not needing IR, which people with night vision can see that you have, but off of thermal diodes. So that way you can get heat signatures and motion tracking of anything that's approaching your perimeter that your camera can point to, detect that, and then the larger cameras can kind of pan to see what's going on. And this allows you to be able to see people when they're not aware that you're seeing them, and then decide what you're going to do from that point. Any IP camera can run off a PoE switch. That's what they're built for. Just make sure that obviously they're rated for the voltage that you're using, or step down that voltage before sending it out to your PoE switch. Like most PoE switches will negotiate that power independently, so as long as you don't exceed the voltage input of the PoE switch, you won't have that big of an issue. But if you want to make full use of solar PoE switches, a lot of them have passive ports that are up to that certain voltage requirement, and you don't want to fry something that can't handshake or negotiate power. So you either reserve those ports for older systems or beefier systems which need that, or you make sure you use the correct voltage from the start. So other things I'm running. Hub 2, I dicked around with using Motion Eye because it was more sensitive of motion tracking software on cameras that were pointed to pan the sky, or at least the perimeter area of the yard where I have some more sensitive things. What this allowed me to do is tune the motion tracking so that it would pick up birds. And if it picks up a bird, it will pick up a drone. And you log the variable zoom on the camera, make sure you get a camera variable zoom, so that way you're registering 400 to 500 feet up and catching even the littlest thing that flies by. It does result in a lot of accidentals. And what I did was wire that into series where it would go to a hub, like a hub node, and I ran out my data pairs to IR floods. What it allowed me to do was I can power the IR floods directly from their own power from that hub unit. And they pulled a good amount of wattage. It was a lot more draw than just 20 watts, but it allowed it to, the camera detected something, IR floods turned on immediately. And those IR floods were angled up. So that way they were flooding that airspace, at least from what's visible from up above and down, with IR. Birds don't care, but drones do. And tested this with a DJI and actually burnt out the receptor on the DJI, which was a fun thing to try to fix. But if it did it to me, it could do it to the drone operator. As a drone operator, now you have to decide whether you want to go into that place blind and see what that was all about or not. As the person who is defending their home, you now have video imaging of that drone, what direction it came from, what direction it's heading, and you know someone's drone capable and you can mount your defense accordingly. The biggest thing about operational security is being proactive, not reactive. If I can maintain that level of security and it doesn't cost me a large amount of power, because we know power is precious, and it doesn't cost me a large amount of time because no one's physically having to secure the perimeter when this can do it for you, then it's worth doing, I think, or at least worth learning about. So how does this factor in communication? This network can, with repeaters, gets out to about 800 or 900 feet. Not a lot when you're talking about grand scheme of communication, but more than enough to secure most properties and most perimeters. And that anywhere within that signal, I'm running rooted in phones, all password protected, all wiped, and all with outgoing Wi-Fi disabled. The only network you can communicate on is this network. That's it. And those all run Briar, which is an encrypted messaging app that also allows you to drop in images. It also allows you to create basically logs, so that way you can log data, you can log pertinent things. You can point to maps or APKs if you're running a dashboard. I do have a dashboard on this through Light PD. I made it so that way I could have a live and offline map there that anybody who has access to this can pinpoint, mark, and note, so that people who are patrolling can note dangerous areas, note incursions, log that all back into the Briar log, which has specific groups which are password protected. So I have a community group to talk to my neighbors, make sure everybody's okay. I have a security group. I have a just in my household group. Now you need passwords to activate to get into any of those. You need a fingerprint or a password to even get into the phone. And then you can also password protect those apps individually. So you have 3 layers of security before someone can get into your perimeter-based comms. And anybody with a cheap pair of headphones into their headphone jack on the device that I gave them can communicate freely, just like on like the old Nextel walkie-talkie type deals. It's called Slide to Talk as the app, so it functions just the same. They can message encrypted, they can pass on information, they can pass on logs, they can do anything they would do on a normal device like it was a cell phone call. And the further they are out, if let's say as long as one person is within that range of the repeater, which is connected to the hub, then through Wi-Fi Direct they can pass it on to the next device and the next device, and so on and so forth. So you can also chain and really extend that encrypted communication range. And it's not hackable, right? Unless you're physically at this, you can't get into that network. You have to have taken the device, known the password, and then be able to figure out what's going on there. And the moment that one of these devices is lost, anyone in control of the hub's main platform can sudo in and can delete that IP. That IP is gone. Now that device can never get back into that. It's not to be alarmist. It's not to make everything out to be the worst end of the world thing. In most SHTF scenarios, you're going to want to keep people calm. You're going to want to know what's going on around you for safety, security, and kind of peace of mind. And you're going to want the ability to communicate. So this does that. What this also allows you to do is expand and play on whatever strengths or areas of expertise you may have to create a more robust system for you. So this works for me. Maybe someone else wants to go even further than this. Maybe someone wants this even simpler. I mean, Hub 1, I can put in the car, and it can run, well, Hub 2 is basically a glorified entertainment hub now. It's basically just a built-in Netflix for my kids. But you can run movies on this. You can run ROMs on this, and games on this, and ebooks, and live maps, and tutorial videos, and basically have a whole built-in tiny hub of library of information on this and take it with you wherever you go. If you're going RV camping, now you have the ability for 20 watts draw or 2.02 kilowatt hours a day. You can run I'm sorry, 0.02 kilowatt hours, so 0.48. So you can run this off of virtually nothing and take it with you wherever you go. And now with just this size unit, you have access to 3 cameras. You have access to your own personal Wi-Fi, and as long as you do a little bit of the work ahead of time, you can load in all the multimedia you want. So now you got kids, you have something for them to do. I know people don't like bringing the internet with them, but you're capable of doing that here and in a safe way. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So this is a No Less Survival video. Again, it's about knowing more and needing less, and it's about understanding that if we start planning for these things now, we're going to be in a better position later. Thank you for watching.